So we talked about, how preoccupation, with appearance affects, a girl's growth and development, intellectual, emotional, social even. When my daughters were growing up, I was really careful. Like I wouldn't let them have Barbie dolls because I knew they were not going to grow up and resemble anything like a Barbie. Okay. And so if they got them as gifts, these Barbie dolls just somehow disappeared. I don't know what happened to them.
I love it.
But I would let them go to their favorite, the Disney and the Pixar movies and whatever. But back in the day, you had to buy a DVD, to have the movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much you could stream it 24/7. So I wouldn't buy the movie so that they wouldn't be watching it over and over and over again, because I felt like we watch it once and I can kind of pick it apart and say, okay, what were the good messages? What were the wrong messages? What were, and that. But what are some of the worst offenders, when it comes to movies and entertainment that promote body objectification for young kids? And what should parents do to find, healthier media options?
We've heard from lots of parents who say, I know Disney's safe. Like, I know that my kids are not going to be exposed to bad stuff if we're watching like Disney movies.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe, and you can back it up by the research, that Disney and Pixar and some of these very kid-centric media platforms are the worst perpetrators of objectification for girls. Because there have been some strides made, and you can point out a couple. Moana and Encanto. You can pick out a couple of examples that don't fit this very particular mold of what it means to be a girl. But largely, all of these streaming services, but especially Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, they feature girls so narrowly that nobody will ever fit it. But up until a few years ago, we haven't even been able to point it out. Like, I mean, Lindsay and I have been doing this work for like 12 years now. And I remember early on, it was one of the first things we wanted to pull apart. Like, why is it that children are not able to see one example of anybody who even looks like me featured? Somebody who isn't just super thin with, the works, just the, no pores, blah, blah, blah. What we see, what I want parents to watch out for is a couple of things. One thing we see from research is that in all of the popular kids entertainment, TV shows and movies, especially animated stuff, boys still, or male characters are still represented far more often than girl characters, than female characters in group scenes and in the protagonist. We do not see as many girl characters represented as boys. And we see the male characters represented in a variety of ways. They get to be the snowman, the reindeer, the human man that looks every sort of way you can imagine. And they get to be represented positively in all of these ways. The girls, while strides have been made in the plot, in what they can do and what they can say, those girl characters are always sexualized and idealized, almost always. They have that hourglass figure, even if they're adolescent characters, even if they're penguins, even if they're whatever it is, they are always sexualized, because what we see is that male is the default and female is the sexualized other. You see this happen in things like Baby Shark, where the male sharks are just the regular blue or gray sharks. And the female sharks, the mom, the grandma, the little sister, pearls, bows, blush, lashes. They are the sexualized other. They are decorative. That teaches kids from a young age that girls have to put some work into female, that femininity has been commodified to be something that you put on. It is expensive. It is painful, but beauty is pain. These are the cultural messages that kids get from a young age. And so I want parents to prioritize making sure that in the shows their kids are watching, they are getting gender parity, that they are seeing female characters represented alongside male characters. Like, as a baseline, we want to see female protagonists in action. So once you get there, then kids start realizing that male is not the default. That means that even in the kids' books, the little pet you get from the zoo, the hungry caterpillar, those are all defaulted as male. Every animal is male, and it shouldn't be. Start changing the pronouns of those characters so kids understand that male is not the default, that girls are right there. There's equality, among us. We're all human. That is just such a very simple, but such a profound first step. And then once you get there, my daughter will now come to me. She's almost 6 years old. She'll come to me if she's watching a Netflix show that I didn't approve, which rarely happens, thank goodness, but occasionally it'll just keep playing. And she'll see something and come to me and say, Mom, I don't think they represent the girls very good. And she'll say that because there's either not enough female characters or they only look one way. And a ton of that is still happening, because what we're seeing is that, like I said, even though there is some progress in terms of the plot lines and seeing girls being able to do things beyond just get a boyfriend or a husband, we still see them only looking one way. And so when that is the case, there are options that promote more diversity. There are good options. PBS Kids is excellent for this. That's a good place to look. And there's also more streaming options that Disney and the others are coming up with that feature a variety of body sizes, because body diversity is so important, alongside racial diversity and all of this. But one thing you can do with your kids too is you can just talk it out loud. One thing I did with my daughter, we were watching this show about these like female rescue rangers. There were 10 of them. They all looked exactly the same with these very idealized depictions. And she noticed it. And I said, why don't we shut this off and make some girl characters of our own? And so she created girl characters that were things that she had like dreamed up in her mind. A cloud, a dog robot, these things that they were not sexualized and feminized in these ways we've been taught to believe is femininity. It was so much bigger than that. So you can do that. You can sculpt, you can create, you can ask questions to help your kids create new worlds where they are more creative than those dang media makers. You can say it all out loud.
Good. Awesome. Those are great tips and great, suggestions of things that we can do to help our children and our daughters, to grow up, to reject these, to recognize them first of all, and then to say, no, that's not for me. Yeah. I'm not going there. I'm smarter than that. I'm smarter than that. And to really teach your daughter that her body, her brain, her mind is, to be grateful for it. I started learning to do this probably later than it would have been ideal, but to just say, I'm thankful for my body. It's not idealized. And now, I only really try to lose weight because there's a health issue, or a pain issue, but really that is so important for kids. Now, I want to talk just a little bit about, how pornography harms girls and how it harms boys. Yeah. And we're not talking just about addiction, because we all know it can be addicting, and that can set you up for a lifelong problem. That can set you up for, lifelong issues. Yeah. But what does it do to our kids when they're exposed to this violent pornography that's dehumanizing, objectifying? Yeah. And it's hard for them to know, like, this must be what really happens. This must be real, Oh yeah. I think, there's all sorts of pornography out there, but the vast majority of it is violent toward women, and it prioritizes male pleasure, not just over female pleasure, but over female safety, over female well-being in general. So when kids, especially kids who are not sexually active, see porn from a young age, they start to think that that's what sex is, that sex is for boys and only for boys, and that it comes at the expense of your own health, safety, happiness, your own pleasure. And when that happens, you are just, again, reinforcing this idea that girls live outside of their bodies, prioritizing how they look over how they feel. This is such a massive problem that the easiest way to have these conversations, I think, is early on by teaching kids that mantra we share, that my body is an instrument, not an ornament. My body is an instrument for me, not an ornament for anybody else. Yeah. And that as you prioritize that in non-sex related conversations, in how they feel, in what they're wearing, in the shows you're watching, in the ways we talk about bodies, then when they start viewing porn that is so
adamantly and egregiously representing the male gaze, the heterosexual male gaze,
Mhm.
then they start to say, oh, I see. So this is just asking me to split from myself. This
Yeah.
is literally begging me to watch myself
Yeah.
instead of look inside my body. And it is easier for them to not just feel immediate shame that what they're seeing is bad,
Mhm.
or even that immediate shame that what they're seeing makes them feel good, like makes their body feel good, but
Mhm.
instead helps them to really be critical and mindful of what the message is asking them to do. What is this
Mhm.
message asking me to believe about myself and who I am?
Mhm.
And so, not even just in terms of like, this is a different angle than even a morality angle, because it asks, especially girls in this case, to see that stuff and see it just like they see all the other objectification in their
Yeah.
life, as
Yeah.
something that is designed to dehumanize them. And
Yeah.
that shouldn't feel good. And
Yeah.
so when they start, having active sex lives, they will be able to take control over their own happiness, health, pleasure as their own. And that will serve them their entire lives. And
Mhm.
when we're talking about boys, I mean, of course, we know that the objectification of women in pornography that sends a direct lens on the female body, rarely the male body. It's all about how the female body looks. We can talk to them about the fact that just like in all forms of media, just like in our culture, we have been asked to believe that women and girls are bodies first and humans second. And in
Mhm.
porn, this just exacerbates that belief. Women are bodies, they're bodies for use. You use them and you cast them aside. And that is dehumanizing and objectifying. And that when a boy can learn that in all of culture, girls are dehumanized and violated in these ways, not just in porn, when they view porn, it will feel ethically wrong. It will
Yeah.
feel more ethically wrong.
Yeah.
And at some point, that has to help push out some of the most egregious porn out there that
Yeah.
is causing actual harm to women. And in the end, that is a net benefit for everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That's it's just so sad to think that the messages of porn and messages really of a lot of social media and everything um, are teaching our girls, especially, to that they're just something to use.
Yeah.
They're just something to use. They're not supposed to think. They're not supposed to accomplish other than being, the ideal,
Yeah.
object. And that to me is just so, so sad. Well, I want to get in a little bit about social media. I know that in your book, you're like, please put it off as long as possible. We also say the same thing. Like, you will be doing your child such a favor to
Oh my
not
God.
burden them with social media. So, how can a parent, what are some of the pros and cons of social media? Let's say for
Yeah.
when a parent is thinking about girls, maybe 10 to 13. First of all, they're not really technically legally supposed to be on social media until 13. So if
Truly.
you're allowing your child to lie about their age, you're
Oh,
kind of teaching them it's okay to do that. And they may lie to you later thinking
ugh.
that that's okay. So I just always warn about that. But, how can you talk to your kids about social media and some of the
Yeah.
traps and the problems, because they're all going to be begging for it, right?
Yeah,
Because their
they're going to be
friends have
begging
it.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. There's so much pressure. Honestly, for kids 10 to 13, you know your own kids better than anyone. But if you understood, and I can tell you, the way the algorithm works to cause especially girls to become addicted to Instagram, TikTok, the works, you would keep them off as long as possible. And I do not think 10 to 13-year-old kids should be on social media. Unfettered access to social media does them so much more harm than good. When they're
Their
a little,
brains,
oh
their
my God,
brains. I mean, the development of their brains
so
is
completely.
really put at risk.
Totally, yes. And so when your kids get to the point that they need social media, it is doing them more harm than good socially or whatever you think the thing might be. I want you to have a candid conversation with your kid. We'll talk daughters. You can also use this for sons. All of this, you can change the pronouns. I'm defaulting to female pronouns for this. Um, I think that we write explicitly in the book about how to do this with a pros and cons list. But I think the first thing you should ask when your daughter is coming to you saying, I want to be on TikTok, I want to be on Snapchat, Instagram, whatever. Talk to her about why she wants it. Like, what do you want? What do you think some of the pros are of being on social media? And like, list them out with her, like have a conversation. What do you want? What do you think you're missing by not being on it? What do you think you'll get? And there are some pros. Like we, Beauty Redefined, and all of our work, the selling of our book, which has been awesome, has happened because of social media. Like the only reason our message has gotten out over the last 10 plus years is because of social media. It's amazing in that way. So one of the pros is you can connect with like cool activists and experts and information that you didn't even know existed. We had to make this stuff up years ago. And now there's so many of us that are doing this work online, and that is amazing. You can connect with people in your community you couldn't have otherwise. You can form new communities of people who have things in common with you that maybe you don't in your small circle, because in school it's like it's your family and your friends, and it's a small circle. There are amazing pros. We can go on about the pros of social media, but then I want you to think through the harms and say them out loud. I would begin that conversation by asking them, what do you think? What do you think would be harmful about getting on TikTok right now? Have you heard anything? Have you seen any examples? And then share your own, because we all have examples of how social media has hurt us. I would share with my daughter, and I will when the time comes, that for me, I'll use Instagram as an example. If I go down the rabbit hole of viewing I have a husband now, but like my ex-boyfriend's girlfriend, years down the line, and think what she looked like or what the new one's up to now, or my husband's old girlfriends, or, whatever. If I go down the rabbit hole of the influencer and what she's wearing, and has she lost weight, or has she gotten her nose done? And then I'm just scrolling and scrolling through her feed. It serves no one, and it hurts me. And I have experienced feeling very triggered and very self-conscious by going through the Instagram rabbit hole of influencers, and the explore page, for one, I completely avoid because of what makes me feel. And when you can lead with your experiences, what you actually feel, what you actually experience, I think your kid listens a little bit better. And so then you create this cons list. What are the cons? We share a bunch of them in our book too. There are actual real cons. The fact that social media, especially for girls, creates body anxiety. It causes you to feel more lonely. So even if a pro is being more connected with your friends, more connected with your community, one of the cons is that even in the midst of so much connection, you feel more alone. It's real. That is a real consequence.
It is. Yep.
So some of the other consequences, some of the things to know, are that the algorithm on social media for girls and women is designed to push the most idealized content. So there's a literal algorithm that shows faces and bodies. And if your face conforms to the ideals, the profit-driven ideals, big eyes, dark brows, long lashes, long hair, few pores, thin, and the body all the way down, if you conform to those, or if the people filming conform to those, the algorithm pushes that content to you. You get more engagement. It shows up in your timeline if you're following them. It shows up in your explore page if you're not following them. It pushes content that is designed to cause you to stay in a feedback loop of seeing stuff, feeling self-conscious because you don't measure up to that, watching more of it because you want to zone out, it's this loop. We literally become addicted to social media because of the shame it causes us to feel. And then we want to zone out because of the shame. Then we're stuck in this pattern of viewing it. And talk to your kids about that. That is a problem. Social media, it isn't designed to help you. Like it's designed to take from you.
Well, and to sell you and to sell you stuff.
And
completely. So like you said, the commodification, where you're not enough, but if you buy this product, and I know Jean Kilborn talks a lot about that, if you buy this product, we can fix things. We can do
That's all
things.
it is.
Yeah.
That's it. That's why influencers make money. They're selling these ideals.
It's something, it's a tool that can be used for good, but you have to be mature enough and you have to understand what the reality is and how to use it wisely.
Yes.
And that is something that doesn't come easily. And it really does take conversations. And I love, like I said, there's a great list to help you have these conversations with your children. So definitely check check that out in the book, everyone. Well, let's wrap this up. I think that, what other advice would you give parents or how to talk to their kids, how to talk to your kids about their bodies, or, how to avoid how to be more, resilient in their body image?
I think you could do this simple practice. It's this question we ask as our baseline in our online course, in our book, in our speaking events. We ask this basic question. I want you to ask your kids this. Ask them, how do you feel about your body? Just that basic question. Don't tell them you're talking body image or confidence or whatever. How do you feel about your body? And have them write it down or say it to you and you record it, because you're going to piece it out and parse it out. What we found is 80% or more of women and girls who we ask this question to respond in the same way. They respond by talking about how they look. And it's often, almost always, what they don't like about how they look. So they're doing that self-objectification thing where they're talking about how their worst fears of what somebody outside of them might be thinking when they look at them.
Yeah.
And when you are doing that, when you are self-objectifying, you are designed, it is a problem designed to cause you to hate your body, because the bar is constantly out of reach. Even the most beautiful girls and women among us are they need our work the most, and they come up to us and tell us that because they've been defined by their bodies their whole life and their beauty. So when you can ask that baseline question to your kids, you can start to parse out, are they self-objectifying, or are they talking about like what they've experienced in their bodies, what they can do, how they feel, what they want to do? And then once you start there, you can also share with them your feelings about yourself, because vulnerability is so powerful here. We're all on this journey together, myself included. And being able to be vulnerable and honest is such a good place to start, to teach your kids about what it looks like and feels like to split from yourself, to watch yourself from afar. And how can they reconnect back to that little them that didn't? You can show them pictures of themselves when they were little. And ask them if they remember. Maybe they do like have actual memories of not caring, of like letting their tummies out and just
being free,
free, and then working to reconnect with that inner child, to be able to come back home. What we talk about in our book, which I feel like is such a powerful metaphor, at least to me, when we were coming up with it, I just got goosebumps thinking about it, and still do it. It feels almost spiritual to think about the fact that when we're little, we split and we drift off into this sea of objectification, and that we leave part of us on the shore. We leave our whole self on the shore to just become a person that is to be looked at. And we live our lives chasing these mirages, trying to fix our bodies, but that doesn't fix us. It never has. It doesn't fix your body image. It doesn't fix your confidence or your life. The thing that does fix us is to come back home to ourselves, to prioritize how we feel, who we are, to prioritize our own experience in the world over anybody else's experience of looking at us. And that as we can reunite with ourselves, to come back in every time we feel that anxiety cloud split us from ourselves, we'll be happier and healthier. Our relationships will be better because we're more present. In every way, our lives are better. And when we can help our kids learn that, as we learn that, as we model that, our lives open up in the most empowering of ways.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been such a wonderful talk, and I bet we could go on for hours and hours talking about all these things. But thank you so much, Lexie. I appreciate your work and the work of your sister. And, when we think about how we want our children to be healthy and happy, and how we want them to really thrive, in this world, instead of be hurt by it. This is so important. And it's so important for them to grow up with healthy body images. It's so important for them to grow up understanding that pornography, portrays, women and men actually as objects. And that will not lead you to be happy at all. It will lead you to be unhappy and lonely and critical of yourself. And that's painful. So we want to give ourselves that, that gift, and we want to give our children that gift. So thank you so much for giving us the gift being with us, being with me today.
Yes,
So
thank
appreciate it.
you.
So people can find you and your book where?
On Instagram, we're at beauty_redefined. We definitely get the most engagement there. We're on Facebook at Beauty Redefined. Our website is morethanabody.org, where you'll find lots of resources. And our book, More Than a Body, Your Body is an Instrument, Not an Ornament, is out everywhere. It's an audiobook, ebook, paperback, and hardcover everywhere. So we so appreciate your support.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book and very eye-opening. So I highly, highly recommend it. Thank you so much, Lexie. Appreciate you being here with me today and helping us to understand things that we may not have even thought of before. And again, if you've been, if you've fallen into this and the culture has kind of told you to act this way, be this way, and you see some issues, give yourself grace.
Yes.
Give yourself forgiveness. It's okay. And just begin to back away from, those, that toxic body image, practices that are harming you and are harming, our daughters and our sons equally. So thank you again, Lexie.
Thank you.